So, hello students, welcome back to your own channel Vedanto Science Olympiad. This is Baswaraj sir, your biology master students. Now, today's class is very special because from today's class onwards, we will be starting with the most anticipated, the most wanted unit called as human physiology. Right? All of you been asking, sir, when do we start human physiology? From past 3-4 months. So, students, today is the day where human physiology starts, and we'll be starting human physiology with nothing but breathing and exchange of gases. Now, for example, whatever happens in that process, no, when you take the air inside and you remove the CO2 outside, right? What is happening? This entire process you will be learning in this particular chapter, students. Now, all of you students, this is a very, very special chapter because it has very core concepts. And while we learn this chapter, you can relate to it because whatever you learn here is actually happening inside you right now. Okay, students. So all of you, if you're new to the channel, quickly smash your like button. All of you, quickly smash your like button. If you're new students, okay. Digestion, absorption we'll do later on, students. Breathing is very important. We need air first, then we'll see food. Okay. So we'll be starting off with the respiration, students. Respiration and breathing. Now, just now I told you respiration and breathing. The first question arises right now. Is respiration and breathing same to same, students? All of you. Students, जल्दी से कमेंट सेक्शन में बताइए कि respiration और breathing दोनों same है, students? दोनों के दोनों same है क्या? Respiration and breathing. Because many textbooks will choose the words interchangeable. They'll always use it interchangeable. But it is not. Both are two separate phenomena. The first basic difference would be, students, breathing is a much more physical process. It is a physical process, while respiration is a chemical process, students. Respiration is a chemical process. So if you tell me the difference between breathing and respiration, I would tell the first thing, student, the first thing would be breathing is much more a physical process. It is a physical process, while respiration is a chemical process. It is a chemical process, students. Chemical process. Now, students, can we control the breathing? Yes, we can control the breathing. Hold the breath. So we can control the breathing while we cannot control respiration. Respiration cannot be controlled. Now, all that aside, students, what is the location? Can anyone tell me, students, where do you think breathing takes place? What are the different structures involved in breathing? I'll give you a small clue, students. First is right here. The first structure is right here, students. The first structure is the nostrils. The small holes you see here above your upper lip, nostrils. These nostrils, nasal passage, nasal cavity, trachea, the trachea is there, larynx, pharynx, right? Then we have the lungs. So all of these are involved, friends. All of these are involved in the breathing. Now, all of you know where breathing takes place. Breathing happens in the lungs. Lungs are involved in breathing, students. Now, what about respiration, students? Respiration. Where do you think respiration takes place? Anyone? Any guesses? All of you. Yes? Anyone who can tell me, students, where do you think respiration takes place? Divyanshu, tell me, where do you think the entire process of respiration takes place? This entire process of respiration takes place inside the cells, in the mitochondria. It also happens cytoplasm, that is glycolysis, but generally it happens inside a cell. Respiration. Breathing happens physically, where your nostrils are involved, lungs are involved. Okay. Now, all of you, tell me, what are the two main processes when we talk about breathing, students? What are the two main processes when we talk about breathing? The first, students, the first process in your breathing is, students, the first process is called as inhalation and exhalation. All of you know inhalation or inspiration or exhalation. So inhalation and exhalation are the two processes in your entire respiration. Yes or no, students? Inspiration and expiration. Inspiration and expiration. Inspiration, expiration. Now, in inspiration, students, also called as inhale also called as inhalation, right? In this process, students, what are we actually taking in? Which gas in general are we taking in inspiration, students? The gas which we take in inspiration is nothing but the oxygen, students. It is nothing but the oxygen. Yes or no? So in inspiration, the oxygen is entering inside. Now, students, what about expiration, students? In expiration, also called as exhalation, right? Exhalation, we are removing out a gas called as CO2. CO2 has been removed outside. Oxygen is taken inside, students. Oxygen is taken inside. Yes or no, students? Is that clear to all of you? It is clear to all of you, students. Now, this oxygen which enters inside our body, can anyone think what is the role of this oxygen? This oxygen which is entering in our body, what is the actual role of this oxygen and where it is utilized? Anyone, students? Anyone? This oxygen which is entering inside our body right now, right? This O2 which is entering inside, let's say this right here is a cell. This right here is a cell here, students, cell. Now this oxygen here will enter inside a cell. This oxygen will enter inside a cell. It will enter inside a cell. Okay. Now once this oxygen enters inside a cell, now what is also entering inside, students? Something called as food is entering inside a cell. Food is entering inside a cell. This food is mainly in the form of a carbohydrate called as what, students? Called as what? It is called as glucose. Called as glucose. Mainly called as glucose. Okay, food is entering. Now, students, this oxygen will react with the food. It undergoes a process called as oxidation process. Oxidation process. That is, oxygen is acting on the food. It is making it undergo oxidation. When the food undergoes oxidation, especially when we talk about your glucose enters. So this is out of syllabus, which I'll teach you in plant physiology. Not right now, but I'll tell you right now. All of you should be knowing what exactly happens, students. Where the glucose gets converted to pyruvate, then it gets converted to something called as acetyl CoA. Then it enters the Krebs cycle, where we get something called as your energy rich molecule NADH and FADH2, which enter ETC. Students, don't worry, I'll teach you this entire thing later on. How glucose gets converted to energy. Now in this ETC, electron transport chain, we get a high energy molecule. Can anyone tell me, students, which is the high energy molecule? Anyone? Should I see the answers? Which is the high energy molecule which is produced inside your ETC, which is actually inside mitochondria? Anyone, students? Anyone? That is called as ATP. So when oxygen is acting on the food, when it undergoes oxidation, we get something called as energy. This energy is trapped in the form of ATP. Now this entire thing is called as what? Respiration. This entire thing is called as respiration. Okay, so in respiration, whatever oxygen we use, whatever oxygen is entering our body through the entire nasal cavity and the trachea and the lungs is actually used in respiration. Students, यहाँ तक किसी को भी किसी प्रकार का डाउट बताओ students. What is the use of oxygen in respiration? What we do is inspiration and expiration. Inspiration is inhale, expiration is exhale. Inhalation and exhalation is a physical process called as breathing, while your respiration is a chemical process which cannot be controlled, and as a result of respiration we get energy. Students. This is the outline we'll work with right now, students. Clear, all of you, students? Can I get some thumbs up in the chat? Students, can I get some thumbs up in the chat right now? All of you students, all of you. Now the next topic is very simple. So we can see here what is breathing. If you want a definition, The process of exchange of O2 from the atmosphere, O2 from the atmosphere with CO2 produced by the cells is called as breathing, commonly called as respiration, students. Now here it says CO2 produced by the cell. So students, I want all of you to understand all of you. When this oxygen is entering, acting on the food and everything, right? I told you we get energy here. We get energy inside a cell. But do we also get other molecules inside a cell as a result of respiration? Yes, we do. Yes, we do. So inside a cell, along with this ATP molecule, inside a cell, there is something called as release of CO2 plus water is also produced inside a cell. Water is also produced. And this water we need for our body. We need for our body. But this CO2 is released out of the cell. So this is what is happening in respiration, students. So in our body, we are taking in oxygen. That oxygen is acting on the food, breaking the food into small pieces, right? Oxidation is happening. So as a result of oxidation, we get something called as ATP, CO2 and water. This is also called as what? Aerobic respiration. Why, students, can anyone tell me why is it called as aerobic respiration? इसको हम एरोबिक रेस्पिरेशन इसीलिए कहते हैं क्योंकि इसके अंदर ऑक्सीजन का यूटिलाइजेशन हो रहा है. Okay, oxygen is utilized here, also called as aerobic respiration, which happens in our body. Okay, students, which happens in our body, and this CO2 is removed outside. So can you see a definition? The process of exchange of oxygen from the atmosphere with CO2 produced by the cells is called as breathing. O2 is utilized by the organism to indirectly break down nutrient molecules. This nutrient molecule is nothing but your glucose, glucon D, to derive energy, while CO2 is harmful, which is also released during the catabolic reaction. Also released in the catabolic reaction, CO2 is released outside. Students, clear all of you? Clear, students? Full form of ATP, adenosine triphosphate. Adenosine triphosphate. Now, what is the use of oxygen? Do you want to know? Do you want to know what is the actual use of oxygen in respiration? Students, do you want to know actually where do you think oxygen will come? Do you want to know, students? It's high level biology. I will teach you that in other chapters, but if you want to learn, I'll tell you now only. If you want to learn, I will tell you now only what is the use of oxygen in our body actually. Do you want to know? Understand, students, understand. Students, usually I don't tell this because you might not follow through, but try to understand a little bit. Okay. See, in this conversion called as glycolysis, in this conversion we don't need oxygen. No need oxygen. In this conversion also we don't need oxygen. Don't need oxygen. Okay, don't need oxygen only. Okay. Now in this conversion also, right, where we have something called as your Krebs cycle. In this Krebs cycle also we don't need oxygen actually. We do not need oxygen there also. In fact, this CO2 here, right, this CO2 is actually released where, you know, it is actually released in your Krebs cycle only. From Krebs cycle we get 2 CO2 outside. 2 CO2. 1 CO2 here also comes in link reaction also. In this conversion, CO2 is released outside. In this conversion, 2 CO2 is released outside. CO2 is released outside. But then where is the use of oxygen? The use of oxygen is only limited to the end of the entire story. Here, in this ETC, electron transport chain. In this electron transport chain, oxygen is actually the final electron acceptor. It will accept the electrons, and this oxygen, when it accepts the electrons, it gets converted to water. It gets converted to water later on. So the only use of oxygen is an electron acceptor in ETC. I hope you can, students, at least did you understand this much? You understood, all of you? This much also if you understood, it's fine. I'll be happy. All of you, did you understand this much? At least this much. What is the role of oxygen? The role of oxygen is electron acceptor in ETC. Only in ETC. Till here, no work. It's like hero entry in the last the hero will come. I'm like, all of you, don't worry, I will accept the electrons. It will accept all the electrons in ETC. Okay, hero is here, oxygen is hero, only till the end limited. Okay, I'll teach you all this later on, students. Ask me when, I'll teach you in respiration chapter. Now, students, now we'll come back to our chapter right now, students. Okay, the anatomy and physiology of respiratory systems, that is the entire system of respiration, students, right, varies greatly depending upon size of the organism and atmosphere in which it lives. Students, obviously, the मछली जल की रानी है, we say no, मछली जल की रानी है क्योंकि मछली पानी में रहती है और हम लैंड पे रहते हैं. सो उनका सिस्टम और हमारा सिस्टम सेम होगा स्टूडेंट्स? सेम होगा क्या? नहीं, उनका सिस्टम और हमारा सिस्टम बहुत ही डिफरेंट है. इसी तरह से स्टूडेंट्स, हर एक ऑर्गेनिज्म में ना डिफरेंट डिफरेंट टाइप ऑफ रेस्पिरेटरी सिस्टम कैन बी सीन. नाउ ऑल ऑफ यू नो समथिंग कॉल्ड एज पोरिफेरा, है ना स्टूडेंट्स? पता है सबको पोरिफेरा? पोरिफेरा पता है स्टूडेंट्स? पोरिफेरा, सीलेंट्रेटा, निडेरिया, टीनोफोरा, प्लैटीहेलमिंथस, है ना? ये सारे के सारे ऑर्गेनिजम्स क्या हैं? लो लेवल ऑर्गेनिजम्स, लो लेवल फाइलम्स है सारे. इस सारे के सारे लो लेवल फाइलम्स के अंदर ना सिंपल डिफ्यूजन होता है. सिंपल डिफ्यूजन कि बॉडी तो छोटा सा बॉडी है और उसके अंदर होल्स होंगे, सिंपल डिफ्यूजन हो जाएगा उसके अंदर स्टूडेंट, सिंपल डिफ्यूजन हो जाएगा. देखो, so in the case of all this organisms, right, simple diffusion can happen over their entire body surface. So ये सारे organisms के अंदर ना sponges, porifera, coelentrates, ctenophores, platyhelminthes, aschelminthes, है ना? So ये सारे organisms के अंदर simple diffusion से ना ऑक्सीजन एंटर करेगा, CO2 बाहर निकलेगा. क्लियर स्टूडेंट्स? क्लियर इतना? ओके. नाउ व्हाट अबाउट स्टूडेंट्स आर्थ्रोपोड्स? एनीवन? ओके स्टूडेंट्स, एनीवन? आर्थ्रोपोड्स, सी आर्थ्रोपोड्स और एनालिड्स, अर्थवम है ना, अर्थवम और हमारा जो आउटर लेयर use their moist cuticle to transport atmospheric air within the body. So in the case of earthworms, oxygen is entering through the outer cuticle. Clear all of students? Clear? Now students, आपने cockroach को भी गिलगिला देखा है क्या अभी? Students, have you seen cockroach also? Little slimy cockroach? नहीं, cockroach तो slimy नहीं है. cockroach तो slimy नहीं है, but cockroach के अंदर it is actually one of the advanced respiration, students. Advanced respiration or breathing, you can take advanced breathing in cockroach. Do you know why? Students, understand, ये तो earthworm हो गया, but in the case of cockroach, they have tracheal tubes. Tracheal tubes are present throughout. We can see tracheal tubes are present. These tracheal tubes will make sure oxygen is entering usage directly to the cells. Whatever oxygen is there, no, directly to the cells, and the CO2 is released outside. CO2 is released outside directly. So insects have a network of tubes called as tracheal tubes which transport atmospheric air within the body. Okay students, tracheal tubes. So they're very advanced, very advanced. Like we also have so much of, see, we like to maintain the body temperature. We have a lot of complications, humans, but insects directly, they'll like source one direction they'll have, that's all. But we have something complications, but they don't have. Okay. Now students, after Arthropoda, we have which phylum? Anyone? Which is the second largest phylum? I will check your knowledge of animal kingdom also now. The second largest phylum is Mollusca. Yes or no, Mollusca? Students, have you noticed Mollusca also has slimy outer wall? All of you? Slimy outer wall also. Mollusca, the little slimy snails are very slimy. Yes, they do. So if they're slimy, students, what happens? In the, students, one more thing. So in the case of Mollusca, many mollusks use gills for respiration. So they also use respiration through their body also happens, but they have gills. Now, but students, one concept I missed here. Students, do you find Arthropoda in water? All of you. See, cockroach land पे रहता है. But do you find arthropods in water, students? In water? Many people eat also, students. Many people eat also. Do you find any arthropoda in water? Anyone? All of you, tell me, students. Do you find arthropoda in water? Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Prawns, right? Prawns, lobsters. Now, all of these arthropoda which are present in water, right? They cannot do normal respiration or normal breathing as terrestrial arthropods. So they need to be very different. Yes, they are different. So your students, listen to me very carefully. The arthropods, also called as crustaceans, which are present in the water, they will have gills. They will have gills. A specialized vascular structure called as gills are used by many arthropods. These gills are present mainly in your aquatic cousins of your arthropods. Okay. In the case of echinodermata, they are tube feet, mediated water vascular system in echinodermata, students. So in echinodermata, they have water vascular system which helps in respiration system. Okay, along with locomotion, feeding, and waste reproduction. So this is how. Remember, students, I told you this in Animal Kingdom. Echinodermata, water vascular system, which have radial walls and everything. See here, radial canals, central canal, radial canals. Yes, echinodermata, students. So students, ये सब छोड़ो. Hemichorda देखो. Hemichorda has something called as gill slits. Then we have the fishes. Now, obviously fish के अंदर, हमारी मछली के अंदर gills होते हैं. इस गिल से ना वो जो डिसॉल्व्ड ऑक्सीजन है ना पानी के अंदर उसको ले लेता है गिल्स. Now students, do we have these gills? Anyone? Do we also have gills, humans, as we have gills? No, we do not have gills. Gills are absent in humans. But what do we have, students? We have lungs. All of us know we have lungs. Now, is there any organism which has lungs and gills? Anyone? It can stay on land, it can be present in water. Students, in larvae stage, it can have something called as your gills, but as it grows older, it can have lungs also, and it can also breathe through the skin also. Very advanced, very popular it is, very popular. Anyone? It can breathe through skin, it has lungs, it has gills in the young stage. Anyone? Students, please remember our amphibians, frog, amphibians. They can respire through their moist skin, the cuticle. They also contain a pair of lungs. So frogs in the adult stage, they can breathe through the skin and lungs. And when they are tadpoles, students, they did go, not there. So when they are tadpoles, small tadpoles, they also have the gills. Gills in the tadpoles grow older, lungs and skin. So please remember the frog. Now, reptiles also have lungs. They can have lungs like structures. In the case of birds, also they have the paired lungs. Right? Paired lungs are present. Humans, obviously we have lungs. Students, obviously we have lungs. We have the lungs. Now, here's a question to all of you, students. Here is a question to all of you. Quickly, let me know the answer in the chat. All of you. All of you tell me, what is the answer, students? All of you students, quickly smash your like button, all of you. Quickly smash your like button. A fully grown tadpole larvae of frog respire through gills. Students, gills. It's tadpole. Tadpole is the young stage. Tadpole is the young stage of your frog. So young stage in the water only. Tadpole is present in water. It has gills. But let's say this tadpole becomes frog. Then it is going to be skin and lungs in frog. So please remember that. Okay. All of you. Water vascular system help in respiration of, in the case of students, in the case of echinodermata students. Okay. Now students, now we will not talk about any other organisms or any other phylum now. Forget everything. Let's focus on humans, students. Let's focus on humans right now. हमारे अंदर ना किस तरह से कौन से different organelles are present for respiration or for breathing purposes. Not respiration, for breathing purposes. Students, shall we start? All of students, shall we start? In the case of humans, अब यहाँ से ना all if you can relate more. ये सारे phylum ना common होते हैं. Like every chapter of human physiology, you will encounter this only. You will have phylum, all the phylums, what and all they have. But forget all the students. Main our chapter is how it happens in the humans. Okay, students, shall we start, all of you? Shall we start? In the case of humans, what exactly happens, students, in the case of humans? All of you. Now, in the case of humans, I will draw flow chart, students. I will draw flow chart for all of you. Flow chart. I want everyone to follow the flow chart, and NCERT plus other extra book also you have to ready, students. Read. but I usually cover the extra syllabus like this feed tube, all that is not present in your NCRT. Okay. 12th you cannot give this NSJS is not there for you. Okay. Now students, all of you students, जल्दी से बताओ, where do you think the entire process of breathing starts? कान से, माउथ से, आईज से, कहां शुरू होता है स्टूडेंट्स, कहां शुरू होता है? Through the nose. Now in this nose we have two holes here. All of you, two holes. They are present above the upper lip. Above the upper lip we have two holes here. These two holes are called as nostrils. So they are called as external nostrils. So the entire thing starts with external nostrils. External nostrils. External nostrils, students. Nostrils. Done. Students, how many we have? Into 2. We have 2 of them, students. We have 2 of them. Now, after nostrils, it goes something called as nasal passage. Now, what is nasal passage, students? दिख रहा है यहाँ पर? All of you. This is nostril. उसके ऊपर दिख रहा है ये वाला part है ना, ये वाला. This part here. This is called as nasal passage. Upper part. Nasal passage. Okay. Now, after nasal passage, the inside part here, that is called as nasal chamber or nasal cavity. बाद में diagrams दिखाऊंगा, समझोगे थोड़ा. Okay. उसके बाद we have nasal. Okay. Then we have nasal chamber, student. Nasal chamber. Nasal passage, nasal chamber. Okay. Then, student, this part here, not the sound box. Above the sound box. Here it is a common passage. हमारा food pipe और wind pipe दोनों एक common passage होता है. This common passage here, that is called as pharynx. Okay. Then we have something called as pharynx here. Common passage, pharynx here. Now, what about below the pharynx? Below the pharynx is the sound box called as larynx. Larynx done. Okay, larynx, also called as sound box. Now, after this, it goes to the windpipe. Let's go to the windpipe, also called as trachea. Students, here I'll teach you something called as epiglottis. Wait for it. What is epiglottis? What is glottis? There is something called glottis here. Glottis is glottis is a cavity here, like a tube. Now on that we have epiglottis. Epiglottis will open, close to make sure the food and the okay. All of you tell me, कभी-कभी खाने के वक्त ना थोड़ा सा खाना या पानी नाक से निकल के आ जाता है. स्टूडेंट्स, हुआ है कभी हम सबको? ऑल ऑफ यू, कभी हुआ है क्या? खाना खाते समय अगर आप थोड़ा हेवी ब्रीदिंग करोगे वरना कुछ बात करोगे, जनरली क्या होता है, नाक से पानी निकल के आ जाता है और वरना यू फील सो कंजेस्टेड समटाइम्स. यस और नो? दैट वियर्ड फीलिंग यू गेट, खाना ऊपर चल जाता है. ऊपर मतलब क्या है? इट गोज टू द स्टार्टिंग ऑफ द विंड पाइप. नाउ ऑल ऑफ यू लिसन टू मी वेरी केयरफुली स्टूडेंट्स, लिसन टू मी वेरी वेरी केयरफुली. दिस इज द विंड पाइप हियर और here we have the food pipe. यहां से food अंदर जाएगा, food है ना, food अंदर जाएगा. Now this part is called as glottis. Now on this glottis, on top of this there's a flap here. There's a flap on this glottis. There is a flap on this glottis. ये flap open होगा, close होगा. Okay, so this flap will make sure the food doesn't enter the windpipe, also called as trachea. Windpipe, also called as trachea. It makes sure. Okay. Now, students, now this trachea is very long. This trachea is very long. From here it goes to here. Now, exactly right in the middle, all of you know there is something called as your. Students, I'll show you a video for that. All of you see this. All of you just see this. Students, दिख रहा है आपको? All of you दिख रहा है ना? Now, students. Now, if you notice here very clearly, see this part is called as sternum. This part is called as sternum. Now, if you look at sideways, here, back side. Now, if you look at back side, that is called as, student, that is called as your vertebral column, right? Here, exactly at T5, this is, forget this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if you count, exactly at T5, what happens? Exactly at T5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, exactly at T5, the entire trachea will split. Let me show you one more animation, students. Let me show you one more animation, you will understand better. Exactly at T5, the entire trachea will split here. So can all of you see the board, students? Students, is the board visible to all of you? All of you. See here. Can you see, students? This is the trachea. This is the trachea, the windpipe. Above this, we have the entire larynx, pharynx, everything. Okay. Now, exactly at this region here, behind your vertebral column, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exactly here below, behind it, the fifth part here, exactly at T5, the entire trachea will split into two. The trachea will split into left and right primary bronchi. These are called as bronchi now. These are called as what, students? Bronchi. Primary bronchi. Okay. Students, see this. Here. So this trachea will split into something called as left and right. Will split into something called as left and right. Left and right primary bronchi. Left and right primary bronchi, students. Where? Exactly at T5. Exactly at T5, they will shift into primary and primary bronchi. Two primary bronchi. You might have seen the diagrams, no? It goes like this, then splits into two. These are called as primary bronchi. Primary bronchi. Exactly at T5. Exactly at T5, we have left and right primary bronchi, students. Primary bronchi. Now, this primary bronchi will again show differentiation. They will divide more. Students, obviously, ये आगे divide करेगा इस तरह से. Divide करेगा ना? Divide करेगा. ना? Now, these are called as what? These are called as, all of you, these are called as what? They are called as secondary bronchi. They are called as what? Secondary bronchi. Secondary bronchi, students. Secondary bronchi. उसके बाद more splitting happens. Then we have something called as tertiary and quaternary bronchi. Tertiary and quaternary bronchi, student. Bronchi. Now, उसके बाद क्या आता है, student? उसके बाद, after tertiary and quaternary bronchi, if you can see any lung diagram, right, it'll have small tubes later on. You might have seen, students, small tubes later on. After many small tubes, these small tubes right here, these small tubes after primary, secondary, tertiary, small tubes are there. These small tubes are called as initial bronchioles. Initial bronchioles. Initial bronchioles. After initial bronchioles, students, we have terminal bronchioles. Then we have something called as terminal bronchioles. Terminal bronchioles. after terminal bronchial, students, after the end of bronchioles, after the terminal bronchioles, finally we have the cushion like structure after multiple divisions. After multiple divisions like this, after multiple divisions, right, we have a sac like structure everywhere. You might have seen this bag like structure. That is nothing but, students, that is nothing but the alveoli. That is nothing but the alveoli. Alveoli and alveoli duct. Alveoli and alveoli duct. Alveoli duct, students. So this is the entire process. This is the entire process which is happening. Okay. So that's how it happens. Okay, students. See here. External nostrils. Here. Nasal passage. I'll show you the videos, photos now. See. Starting is what, student? These are the two nose here. Nose. This is called as nostrils. Yes or no? They are called as what, students? Nostrils here. Nostrils here. Nostrils. Now, students, I'm touching students. You might touch here. This part is called a septum. Nasal septum here. Here between is called a septum here. This is called a septum. Now, then what is this entire part here? This entire part here. That is called as nasal passage. Nasal passage. Nostrils, nasal passage here. Nasal passage. Now, after nasal passage, this cavity, can you see here? Above this cavity inside, that cavity is called as nasal cavity or nasal chamber. Nasal chamber or nasal cavity. Nasal chamber or nasal cavity here. Now, students, you can see here clearly better here. Can you see? Nostrils, nasal passage, nasal cavity. Can you see? This entire thing is called as nasal cavity. Now, after nasal cavity, we have a structure. Can you see the blue color part? That is called as pharynx. Pharynx is common passage here behind. Pharynx. Pharynx here. Now, can you see pharynx is here? Pharynx. Now, you can see, notice here, students, there is windpipe here and there is food pipe here. This is behind is food pipe and windpipe here. Two different pipes are there. You can see, students, here. Now, after pharynx, pharynx opens through the larynx region into trachea. So after pharynx, we have larynx here, students. Larynx. Larynx is also called larynx. Sure, voice box, also called as voice box. Now after larynx, there is windpipe here. Bottom is called as windpipe. Trachea or the windpipe, students. Here, now you can see very clearly, students, here. Mouth, nostrils, nasal passage, nasal cavity. Then after nasal cavity, this region here is called as pharynx. So larynx, right? This entire thing, pharynx. Then after pharynx, we have the larynx. Larynx here. Larynx is present here. Larynx. Okay, larynx. Okay. The pharynx opens into larynx. Pharynx into larynx. Pharynx into larynx. Pharynx has this structure here, side to side. Okay. Pharynx into larynx. Okay. Region into trachea. Larynx is a cartilaginous box which help in sound production and hence called a sound box. All of you know that, students. Now, pharynx opens into larynx by a slit-like aperture, the glottis. So this glottis is present technically there. During swallowing, glottis can be covered by a thin elastic cartilage called as epiglottis. So this entire larynx is covered. It is completely covered. Okay. Whenever there is, let's say there is food entering, it will be closed, protecting the windpipe. When we want to inhale, opens up, all the air is going inside. Okay. Now see, students, to prevent the entry of food into larynx. So this larynx has a epiglottis here, students. Epiglottis is present here. Glottis is the structure. On that we have as epiglottis here. This will open and close. Open and close. Okay. Now, then we have the trachea. Entire thing is called as trachea. Trachea, students. Now, if you can notice, students, on this trachea, there are a lot of line, cartilage ring-like structure, half ring structures. Entire cartilage has half ring-like structure here. It has ring-like, students, cartilage. C-shaped incomplete cartilage ring. It is present, students, from trachea to initial bronchioles. From here to here, entire thing has the small rings. These small rings are present here also. Can you see, students? On this entire trachea, even on the primary bronchi, it is present. Secondary bronchi, rings are present. Rings are present. Now you might ask me, sir, क्यों है यहाँ? Why do we need the rings? Students, understand. Let's say this is our backside, the vertebral column. Now these lungs are stuck on the vertebral column, and these rings are like one to make sure it is like a nail. Students, आपने देखा होगा, lot of cables, right? Lot of cables have this C color, C shape. उस C shape को हम पकड़ के ना इस केबल को लेके, लेते हैं इस केबल है, इसको लेके हम जोड़ देंगे, अब वो C डाल के जोड़ देंगे, C. So you might have seen in your houses also, lot of cables are growing, and we add a C-shaped structure to make sure the cable is stuck there. है ना? So same thing is present here also. This entire C shape will make sure the trachea is stuck inside, stuck everywhere. Make sure stuck everywhere, students. That is called as your entire C-shaped ring. Now, trachea is straight tube extending to the mid-thoracic cavity. Thoracic cavity, mid-thoracic cavity here. Thoracic cavity, okay, which divides at the fifth thoracic vertebrae. Thoracic vertebrae. I said right, vertebral column, right? Thoracic vertebrae into right and left primary bronchi. Can you see? Left and right primary bronchi. It is splitting there, students. It is splitting there. Each bronchi undergoes repeated division to form secondary bronchi, tertiary bronchi. Can you see? Trachea, primary bronchi, secondary, tertiary, then initial bronchioles, then terminal bronchioles. Okay. Then we have bronchi ending up with thin terminal bronchioles. Students. Now, after that, students, what is the end part? Then we have alveoli duct here. Can you see? Alveoli duct here and alveoli. Alveoli is very thin alveoli. Very बहुत पतला होता है वो alveoli. Okay. Each terminal bronchi give rise to a number of very thin, irregular walled, vascularized bag-like structure called as alveoli. And this alveolar duct also. See, students, this will make sense to all of you now. Nostrils, nasal passage, nasal chamber, pharynx, larynx, trachea, primary bronchi, secondary bronchi, tertiary, quaternary. Then we have initial bronchioles, terminal bronchioles, then we have alveoli duct and alveoli. This is the entire passage how the blood, all the oxygen or the gases which flow in our lungs, students. This is the exact passage how the transfer of entire O2 happens in our respiratory system, students. Respiratory system, students. You can see here also. Larynx, trachea. Then this can you see the C-shaped ring present everywhere. Then primary left and right primary bronchi, then secondary bronchi, tertiary, quaternary, alveoli duct, alveoli. Okay, that is the entire thing. और सबसे नीचे है diaphragm, नीचे की तरफ है diaphragm. Okay, diaphragm नीचे है. This actually part here we have sternum. Sternum is present in the middle. Students, sternum is present somewhere in the middle. Now, students, how many lungs do we have, students? We have 2 lungs. The entire lungs are covered by 2 layers actually. It has 2 different layers. Okay, the entire lungs are covered by pleural. Okay, let me just draw and show you, students. Let's say this is the lungs here. One lung here. Okay, lung here. This entire lung is covered by 2 layers. On the inside it has one layer is there present on the inside, and we have a layer on the outside. Here. 2 different layers. It has 2 different layers like this. Okay, this inner part is the lung. The first layer is called as what, students? Outer pleura. Inner, then we have outer here. Now, what about between outside and inside? The middle part is called as it has something called as pleural fluid, which reduces the friction. Pleural fluid is present right in the middle. This is how the lungs are, students. This is how the lungs are. Okay, pleural membrane, outer and inner. You can see here also, students. Okay, now students, outer and inner. This is the lungs here. It has, outer is called as parietal also. Parietal, inside is called as visceral. Okay, middle is called as pleural cavity also, which has a fluid inside. Okay, fluid in the students. Now, what about if you want to divide the entire system? Entire respiratory system can be divided into two parts. Entire respiratory system can be divided into two main parts. From nostril, pharynx. One second. From nostril, pharynx, larynx, trachea, bronchi, and up till terminal bronchi. Until here. Until starting from here to terminal bronchi till here. If you consider from here starting till here, students, it is called as conducting part. It is called as what, students? Conducting part of it. The main function of this conducting part is to make sure oxygen is entering inside. This part is called as exchanging part. I'll show you, students. I'll show you here. This entire thing is called as conducting zone or conducting part of the respiratory system. Only the alveoli duct and alveoli, only these two parts are called as part of your exchange zone. Exchange zone, students, what is the main function? Exchange zone will help in the transfer of or exchange of gases mainly. These structures here, conducting zone will help in the conduction of the entire air. Okay, it helps in, students, it helps in conduction of air. Conducting zone helps in conduction of air. Now, students, let's say along with the air, what if we have inhaled some impurities? Will that undergo filtration? Yes. So filtration of air also happens here because of this. Filtration of air also happens because of the conducting zone itself. Now, students, all of you take your hand front. Students, all of you take your hand front, students, and do this. Do it around 20 times. Do we get some moisture there? Do we get some humidity? Yes, we do. There is moisture in the air. थोड़ा पानी पानी है ना हमारे breath के अंदर. Moisture in the air. That is also done by conducting zone, students. Addition of or humidification. Humidification of air. Humidification of air is also done, students. Humidification of air is also done by your conducting zone. Now, apart from all of this, there is one more function also, students. One more function of your conducting zone. Conducting zone, let's say, बहुत ज़्यादा hot air, if it enters inside, this hot air will destroy everything inside. Yes or no? Imagine hot air is entering inside. Imagine hot air is entering inside. If hot air is entering inside, the entire hot air, by the time it reaches the alveolar duct or alveoli, the air is cool. Cooled air is present. That is, decreasing the temperature, maintaining the temperature is also done by your conducting zone, students. Conducting zone also helps in, students, also helps in maintenance of temperature. Maintenance of temperature is also done by the conducting zone. So यहाँ से लेकर यहाँ तक conducting zone और alveolar duct or alveoli are the exchange zone, which main function is exchange of your oxygen and CO2 with the blood vessels. For example, students, यहाँ पर देखो, दिखाओ, देखो students, यहाँ पर है ना ये alveoli sac. Alveoli sac will have blood vessel like this. Blood vessel will be present here. This blood vessel will help in exchange of gases. Exchange of gases will happen here with the alveoli sac. Alveoli sac. Okay? तो किस तरह से होगा देखो. इस तरह से alveoli sac है ना ये. यहाँ पर एक blood vessel होगा, blood vessel. Blood vessels will be going here. So with the help, and these are made up of squamous epithelium, right? They're very thin. Exchange of gases can happen like this. Exchange of gases can happen this way. Gases are easily exchanged. Gases are easily exchanged this way. Exchange this way. Okay, students. Exchange this way, students. Students, this I'll teach you tomorrow. What is thoracic chamber? Now, how does thoracic chamber influence the lung capacity? You know, like lungs बड़े होते हैं क्या? कितने बड़े हो सकते हैं? What is thoracic? what is pulmonary volume, what is pulmonary pressure, and how does pulmonary pressure plays in inhalation. All that concept I'll teach you tomorrow. Like when thoracic volume increases, pulmonary volume increases, pressure decreases. And students, in tomorrow's class, I'll teach you this. All of you know, right? PV is equal to nRT. We will use this. We will use this equation. We will use this equation to understand the concept of breathing. Okay. So in tomorrow's class, we will understand the entire breathing with the help of PV is equal to nRT. How does this entire equation explains our breathing in tomorrow's class? Okay. How does it explain, students? Okay. So students, before we close the class today, let me teach you one small concept, students, one small concept, that is our lungs are airtight. Okay. What do you mean by airtight, students? What do you mean by airtight lungs? Okay. The meaning of airtight lungs is very simple, students. अगर हमारे lungs है ना, आगे नहीं आ सकते. Why? Because of the sternum. They can't go back, vertebral column. They can't go side, rib cage. They can't go down because of the diaphragm. They can't go anywhere. They're like airtight, pack हो गए हैं बहुत सारे. Okay, they're very packed. For example, students, for example, front side is called as what? Ventral side, right? Ventrally, what do we have, students? We have sternum. Sternum. Dorsal side, we have the vertebral column. Vertebral column. Then on the sides, we have the rib cage. We have the rib cage. Let's say at the bottom, we have the diaphragm. We have the diaphragm at the bottom. So it cannot go anywhere. It is stuck here only. Lungs are stuck. Airtight, sealed there only. Airtight, sealed. Done. This is called a sternum. Beachy head, but sternum. So inside the sternum, we can find the lungs here. Not here, here. Okay, lungs can be seen here, students. It is stuck, students. Now, before we end the class, students, let me teach you something called as the steps in respiration. After the steps of respiration, tomorrow's class I can teach you easily the remaining concepts. Next class I'll teach you mechanism of breathing. Mechanism of breathing I'll teach you next class. थोड़ा time लगेगा उसके अंदर, but समझ जाओगे ना, मजा आ जाएगा. Okay, students. Now, what do you mean by entire breathing? How does it happen, students? Breathing. Okay. Now, students, very simple concept. Very simple concept here. Here we have the heart, lungs, and let's say tissue is here. Okay, tissue amper. So let me just fill the tissue because I need some space to write. Okay. Now, all of you tell me, students, let's say this is the tissue right now. Now, all of you tell me what is entering a tissue, students? What is entering a tissue? All of you tell me, students, what is entering a tissue? Always remember, oxygen is entering a tissue. Oxygen is entering a tissue. Okay, this is a tissue right now. And this oxygen is used and it is converted to CO2 eventually. Oxygen is used and it is converted to CO2 eventually, CO2. And this CO2 is released outside. Yes or no? CO2 is released outside. Now, all of you, this much all of you know. Now, this is a heart, right, student? This is a heart. Let me just fill the heart. Students, how many chambers heart has? Students, how many chambers does the heart has? All of you. How many chambers are present in the heart? Heart has 4 chambers. Heart has how many chambers? It has 4 chambers, heart. Okay. Now, this is the right side, left side. You know, yes, I'm standing like this. I'm standing like this. I'm standing like here, right? Right side of my heart, sure. Right side of my heart, left side of my heart. Okay, students. Left side and right side is done. Atrium, left atrium, right atrium, left atrium, right ventricle, left ventricle. Okay, students. Now, let me just clear to all of you. Let me just clear to all of you. Now, this CO2 student, this CO2, where does it enter? This CO2 students, always remember, right is restroom. Right side restroom. Students, restroom में ना, बाथरूम के अंदर, restroom या बाथरूम के अंदर waste होता है, waste होता है ना, waste होता है. So right side is always what? Waste. Means CO2 is going there. All of you students, CO2 is going to the right side. So ये सारा का सारा, right? सारा का सारा जाएगा first atrium के अंदर. सारा dirty oxygen, dirty gas will go here. All this dirty gas will go here. From here to here, atrium to ventricle, ventricle. Now from ventricle it goes to the lungs. From ventricle it goes to the lungs. Clear, students? Clear, all of you? Then it goes to the lungs here. Finally to the lungs. Okay. Now, so CO2 is entering where? This CO2 is actually going out as such. So CO2 is here. CO2, 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 and CO2 is just going out. CO2 is going out. Done? CO2 is going out from the atrium and ventricle. Yes. From the tissue, CO2 is going out to the right atrium, ventricle, lungs, outside. CO2 is removed outside. Now, what is entering inside, students? Enter of oxygen is entering inside. Oxygen is entering inside, students. ये सारा का सारा ऑक्सीजन ना कहां पर घुसेगा स्टूडेंट्स? यहां पर घुसेगा, यहां पर घुसेगा. ओके, आर्टरी में घुसेगा स्टूडेंट्स. यहां से वेंट्रिकल जाएगा, वेंट्रिकल जाएगा, वेंट्रिकल से ना हार्ट की तरफ टिश्यू में घुस जाएगा. सो इसके अंदर क्या है? ऑक्सीजन, फ्रेश ऑक्सीजन, फ्रेश ऑक्सीजन is entering the cell. This is the broad way how it functions, students. Okay, broad way it starts, broad way it happens. You can see the movement of oxygen and CO2, how it happens in the breathing. Remember, right side restroom, right side is always deoxygenated blood is going there. So what happens, students? Breathing or pulmonary ventilation. Pulmonary is the Latin word for lungs. Pulmonary lungs. So ventilation is inside, inspiration, expiration. So pulmonary ventilation, by which atmospheric air is drawn in and CO2 rich alveolar air is released outside. So first step is here, students. First step is here. All of you, first step is here. Yes or no? Air, oxygen is entering inside from the atmosphere. This is the atmosphere here. Entering inside, and the CO2 is actually released back. CO2 is released back. Diffusion of gases O2 and CO2 across alveolar membrane happening right here, students. Diffusion is happening here. Point number 2, diffusion is happening. CO2, oxygen diffusion is happening here. Diffusion is happening. Yes or no? It's happening here, right? It's happening here. Point number 2, right? Now, transport of gases by the blood. See, transportation of gases by the blood, transportation of gases by the blood is happening. Transportation is happening. Done. Diffusion of O2 and CO2 between blood and tissues. Between blood and tissues here. Okay. This is point number 3. Point number 4. Between blood and tissue. It's happening here. Diffusion is happening. Now, utilization of O2 by the cell. Utilization of O2 by the cell and resultant release of CO2 after respiration. That is point number 5. It is released outside. Students, this is the entire beautiful process of your respiration, breathing, which happens in our body. How lungs are involved, heart is involved, and cells are involved, or tissues are involved, students. Beautiful process. Students, I think I will stop the class here, students. I think I took extra 2 minutes. I took, sorry, Nidhi ma'am or sir who's taking next. Right. So next class, students, I'll be teaching you the mechanism of breathing. How diaphragm moves up, diaphragm moves down. When diaphragm is moving, what is happening to the pulmonary, pressure, what is happening to pulmonary cavity, how it is changing. all that I'll teach in the next class, students. So thank you so much, all of you. I will next video, students. Until then, all of you keep studying. Bye bye and take care, all of you students. Bye, all of you students. Bye bye. Students, look at this beautiful thing. Sai Priya will start eventually. So look at the beautiful process that happens in our body.